Good morning. My name is Carl Dakin, and this is the Successful Funding Show. This program is presented by myself to share information that I've gained through my career on raising funding for just about anything that needs to raise funding. And one of the challenges that we commonly face is when an enterprise, an entrepreneur, charity, or other group is seeking to raise funding is that the people out there who can write the checks, who can provide the resources, they look at these pitches, they review the offers, and they ask themselves, is this really going to happen? And they assign either consciously or unconsciously a risk factor to the probability of success. And that goes into their decision making process on whether they're going to make an investment or not. And today, the topic we're going to talk about is de risking a pitch or an offer or the entire business, the organization, so that when an investor candidate takes a look, they're saying, I like this one. This looks like this is going to happen. And they want to get behind it. And for today's topic, I've invited my friend and business partner, associate Matt Walsh with Splish Naturals, who is one of the ultimate entrepreneurs who manifest all the characteristics of what an entrepreneur is and should be. And I've asked Matt to talk a little bit about himself, about Splish Naturals, his company, and then we're going to dive into all the different things he's doing to advance his business, to make it more attractive, the shiniest object that's out there in the marketplace, so that it can attract investment. So, Matt, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Carl. Thanks for having me on your show. I appreciate it. And looking forward to plowing through the topic today and, sharing a bit about our story. Um, and, we had officially launched this company, which was a pure CBD topical brand in December of 2019. Well, we all know what happened three and a half months later when with the COVID pandemic. And of course, I think we'll probably talk about things we can control and things we can't control. And this was clearly one of those things that we couldn't control. And truthfully, gave us an opportunity to rebrand the company from not being just a purely CBD company, but rather taking a spherical approach towards holistic wellness. Whatever products that might include to help mitigate pain, inflammation, promote relaxation, recovery, etc. So, but yeah, I look forward to being a part of this program today.
Yeah, it's been, as usual, a startup, a launch of any new business is an engagement in doing something new and different. And the thing is, this is the only way to make the world a better place is to do things differently than we've done them in the past. But doing things differently carries with it an inherent sense of risk. That, the question is, can it be done? Can this person, this team, make it happen? Will the market respond to it favorably? All these different things going on. And as Matt mentioned, things come along the road that you can't really plan for, you can't really prepare for, but you have to respond to them. And your ability to respond means whether or not maybe your business lives or dies, whether you're there to go another day. And we saw that with COVID, and we saw that actually with CBD. Matt's company originally was framed with a number of topicals for CBD. And the market said, wow, look, CBD, the newest cure for everything. It could put hair back on my head, which apparently it didn't work very well, and all these other things. And so everybody rushed into the market to produce hemp and extract CBD, and the market did not respond with a huge acceptance of that. And everybody who jumped in, there was no quality control, there was little regulatory oversight, and anybody and anything could put out anything and call it CBD and claim that it could cure anything including cancer and skin affections, whatever. And the market became a mess. It became so noisy that the good people like Matt and Splish Naturals could not, in good effort, distinguish themselves from the thousands, tens of thousands of people putting out product of questionable origin or quality or anything. And became quite the challenge. So Matt did a pivot. Matt started looking at other things that would address inflammation and pain relief and has expanded. So, Matt, tell us a little bit about how your adjustment to the market, how you've tried to continue to position Splish Naturals to be a leader in the area of wellness.
Yeah, so, of course, COVID came along, all our customers shut down. It gave us an opportunity to pause, rebrand our company, and take a more spherical approach, as I mentioned earlier, towards wellness. And, when we looked at the competitive landscape, especially in CBD, as you already mentioned, there was a lot of disinformation, a lot of disreputation out there. It was a flooded, saturated market, and maybe what we didn't need is just another company, promoting a CBD product. And at that time, we at the same time we were taking a more spherical approach to wellness. We also started focusing on sports because, as we all know, during COVID, athletics continued on. There may have been some more cardboard cutouts in a football stadium, but people were still playing sports, and if you look at the sport of pickleball as an example, it exploded during COVID because people were looking for a reason to get off the couch, get outside, socialize again, and be able to keep a fair amount of distance. So we decided that we didn't want to be just a CBD company. We wanted to go after pain and inflammation and promoting relaxation and athletic or just everyday recovery. This could be a recovery from a surgical procedure and take this approach. So we took a dive into pulse electromagnetic field mats and far infrared heated mats. We're looking at launching a water company called Splish 2O, which will be a hydrogen enriched water. Again, it helps hydrate more effectively. It helps reduce inflammation. So it's within the wheelhouse of wellness. And so, we've got grounding mats for people that want to stay grounded to the earth, period, while they're working on their laptop. And so, because of this, we aren't just a mat company. We're not just a CBD company. We're not just this. We're not just that. We are truly basically in a wellness company because we're looking at all the different ways. And when you talk about CBD, there's a lot of disreputation. There's a lack of certain amount of trust out there that people have, and trying to build a reputation. It's challenging. It really is. And, it requires baby steps. But I think, the approach that we're taking to create a more broader foundation for our company is actually working out to our favor, allowing us to expand in different areas and in different customer brands that we may never have been able to get near being purely just a CBD company. So, like I said, broadening our foundation with different ways to mitigate pain and inflammation is literally, it's part of our strategy to separate ourselves from all our competitors, not just some of them.
Yeah, so from an investor perspective, you not only have showed persistence and tenaciousness, which is requirement of any entrepreneur to succeed, but you have been sensitive to the market feedback, and you have explored and adopted new products which complement your original position within the market. And from an investor standpoint, this is something that they look for. They want to ask the question. They know that you're going to get thrown a few softballs every now and then as an entrepreneur, but quite often it's the hard ball that knocks you out of the box. And so the ability of an entrepreneur to overcome these challenges, whether it's COVID or noise in the marketplace, difficult in standing out in the marketplace, These are all things that investors want to see because it demonstrates capability of the management team. And at the same time, as you described it, Matt, you're finding markets, market niches, you're finding traction in the market that allows you to move forward. And there's one thing that investors really like more than anything else is proof of success. So many entrepreneurs come to me or want to be entrepreneurs, for lack of a better description, and say, I need funding. I go, yes, you do. And they go, I want to go out into the market. I go, yes, that's where you need to go. And they may have a great idea. They may even have some prototypes and some other things, but they haven't sold a single dollar of revenue. They haven't affirmed with the marketplace that their products are at the right price, they're in the right place, all these kinds of things. So, in attempting to de-risk a company, one of the best things you do is complete a sale and get out there and verify, validate, that the market sees you, understands you, and wants you. Because the investor may like you personally, but they want to see somebody that likes your products and services. So, Matt, what are you doing in that regard to get affirmations, certifications, anything that is like a third party, independent, objective statement that, hey, we love Splish and we want more of that?
So several things. Last year, 2024, uh, we were nominated by the UK's top luxury magazine called Luxury with an I, not a Y, as the holistic wellness solutions provider in the USA for 2024. And this was, I'm not sure where the nomination came from, but it was we were nominated and we received these accolades, which, we were not shy to share and promote. But it helped validate what we're doing because they go through an extensive research, criteria, so that one, they're not playing favorites like, oh, I like this one here because my friend runs it, or I like the name of it or whatever. So we were very proud of that. In the US, we were recognized by the best of the best reviews, which reviews companies across the spectrum of different industry groups. And we were awarded Wellness Innovator for 2024, which really we were very proud to have earned those accolades. Most recently, CIO Magazine, CIO Times, which is a leadership magazine and promotes top leaders in industries, across the spectrum around the globe, recognized myself and Splish as top top 5 wellness visionary leader in the wellness space globally. So again, huge pride. They honored me by putting on the cover, and then there's an article in there along with the article of other visionary leaders, and so very, very proud of that. And it's part of, again, it's building our foundation. Just because I get my face on the cover of a magazine doesn't mean that I'm going to go to 0 to 1 million as far as wealth goes. But at the same time, it's also validating what we do. This has also given us not just national exposure, but global exposure. And so we're super excited. This magazine gets published next month. So, we'll see what type of traction we're able to get and interest. And so super exciting. And again, it helps, after a long, you think back when we first founded, I said December of 2019. Now we're in, 2025. And it seems like, what I thought was going to be a short run to the top ended up being, challenged pretty much every step of the way, whether it's because of the regulatory challenges with CBD, the ability to do banking, credit card processing, being able to market a product. I'm quoted in numerous places that if just because you build it doesn't mean they'll come. That works really well in the movies, but in real life, where straight lines truly do not exist, it becomes more challenging. So, then you need to become creative, or you need to seek the capital to be able to help promote a business. And, it's not like it was 25 years ago where, yeah, where are you going to advertise? Probably the local newspaper, maybe a national publication, maybe the Yellow Pages, if they still exist. And now with social media and digital media, there's just so many different places. And of course, we all know that there's no shortage of noise out there.
Yeah, so for all those in the viewing audience this morning, and I'll check to see who's online. We have Leiter Horn with us this morning in the audience. Very interested in CBD, but it was expensive in my country of Norway. Um, and yes, what we have seen is that CBD has been either accepted or rejected, or it's been muddled in between, which has not been helpful to getting the product out into the market. And even in some adjoining states to Colorado, it's still questionable whether or not you can buy and use CBD at the state level, because even though at the federal level it's legal in the United States, and in some foreign countries it's still impossible to ship products into that country with CBD because of its relationship of the hemp plant to marijuana, and the potential that there's some THC, which is the hallucinogenic, or whatever you want to call it, entertainment component of marijuana. Matt, what have you done to try to overcome this particular challenge, which is I don't want anybody, getting high on this topical balm of yours.
Yeah, no, we take that very, very seriously because we work with athletes, professional athletes. We work with federal workers. We work with law enforcement. We work with people that are randomly and on a regular schedule drug tested. And nobody's going to lose their job because they tested high or tested positive for THC in their bloodstream. Now, granted, around the U.S. anyway, laws are beginning to soften a bit, and companies are changing it. Like, okay, we're not looking for THC in your bloodstream anymore. We're either looking for other things or making sure you didn't drink a six pack before you came into work today. And so, but at the same time, we all our products use what they call CBD isolate, which is where it's 99% pure CBD, no measurable amount of THC in it. And when you use it topically, it becomes a little bit different animal because the CBD never enters the bloodstream. So there's nothing to drug test with it when you do take it. And truthfully, I don't even know if when you orally, if there's a way for them to test positive for CBD, because it's not CBD they're looking at. It doesn't have the psychoactive compound that THC does.
Well, so the CBD actually is generated naturally within the body. It's part of a normal healing process that is within the autoimmune system. And so if they did test for
Yeah.
CBD, the question would be whether it's not whether it's present, it's whether it's elevated. And but so here's one more thing that Matt has done is he basically guarantees that his product is THC free. This is to differentiate himself from all the other CBD products who cannot make that claim because they're using whole spectrum, they're not using an isolate, and there may be THC present, and it may be enough to trigger something in a blood test of some kind. So we're walking through a list of things that de-risk the company. One is, selling product, even in the face of pushback, high competition, high noise. We're talking about going out and getting third-party groups to recognize accomplishments, which serves like an objective endorsement of the company because Matt didn't say it. I mean, you can ask Matt and he'll give you good, honest information. But every investor, in the back of their mind is going, well, of course, that's what he's going to say. He's talking about his own company. So when you can identify anybody out there who can authenticate your company, your market, how you run your business, anything at all about what you're doing, and put it out there in the form of an award or some other such thing, then it gives you that authenticity. It gives you that higher place on the podium than somebody who has no recognition whatsoever. And so, as you're trying to de-risk your business, trying to figure out how to make yourself the shiniest object in front of an investor candidate, take a look at what your competition is doing, other businesses are doing, other things out there where you can stand out because somebody pointed at you and called you out for doing things correctly. And sometimes that's very hard to do. There may not be anybody that does a lot. I've received a few awards through my career, but the work that I do isn't one that's commonly, where we don't have a CIO magazine for raising funding award that I know of. So I'm pleased and proud that Matt has been recognized in this fashion. And then, as Matt's talking about, other things that you can do is look at your different product lines. Ask yourself, is this a product I can add to my portfolio? Does it complement what I'm doing? And always being in what you would call a continuous innovation, continuous improvement cycle. And one of the things I've realized is quite often things that Matt is doing are often not talked about by the small business. They're out, busting their butt every day trying to make things better. That when they pitch it to an investor, they don't talk about this stuff. They don't say, "Hey, I'm on 15 different news feeds. I'm searching the internet every day for new things to do. I've got a Google alert that talks about pain and relief, that daily tells me what everybody else is doing." All these things, which are back office, which are part of the normal operation of the business, are ignored. They're not talked about to the investor, and yet the investor wants to hear about these. They want to know that you are intentional, you are consistent, that you are trying to make things better all the time. And therefore, if they put their money in the hands of the business, that business is not only going to do well, but it's going to try to do better day after day with that money. And it's this evokes trust and credibility in the business, that they're simply not going to go out and buy a brand new car. They're not going to go and blow all the money at a convention or some other thing that everybody, or go out and pay a bunch of money for a bunch of mailing lists, which may or may not, be spam millions of people and generate zero sales. There's all things that are out there. Now, some people believe in mailing lists and they'll want to know that you tested it and verified whether it worked or not. So that's another thing. It's another demonstration of your attempt to improve the business. But we're talking about things that, from an investor standpoint, that are visible, tangible, measurable kind of things that they can go, that is good. I like that. And because the business is doing that, if I have to choose between half a dozen different businesses, this is something that I would get behind. So, Matt, you're basically, checking all the boxes. You're continuing to move forward. What do you perceive right now as the biggest risk that you're facing? What is the thing that, and as we described, I'm going to break these into two groups: those within your control and those without your control. What is it that you think that's within your control that you could do better, that would make yourself less risky in appearance to a potential investor?
I mean, I think we've done a pretty good job of mitigating some risk from the standpoint through diversity, and I'm talking diversity of our product lines and the approach. And not everything is regulated the same thing as a CBD product, whereas we have our mats products, our chakra and our rejuvenation mats, which have healing modalities that each of these healing modalities have been somewhere along the line FDA approved. There's no shortage of science backing what the efficacy of these mats are, what they will do for you, which I love. I love having the science, because it's not what Matt says, it's what science backs, what these are doing. So I think, by bringing on these and bringing on grounding mats and bringing on hopefully this year we'll launch Splish 2.0, bringing on the hydrogen enriched, water bottles and pitchers. It'll, again, a lot of science behind this. It's not woohoo. It's not snake oil. And that's where a lot of disreputation came along with CBD. It was brand new. Nobody understood it. It was regulated the same, as a Schedule I narcotic. And so, and the FDA never created any sort of guidelines or labeling. In our case, we follow what our insurance company requires us to put on labels. And that's what we do to make sure we're as compliant as we possibly can. Years ago, when we were purely a CBD and wanted to raise money, we did a friends and family, and that was, successful for our needs at that time. And then we started talking to other investors, but it was almost too risky for people that maybe weren't already in the cannabis business some way, somehow, to be able to put their money into it. Because what if all of a sudden marijuana was illegal, and with it went CBD, and pretty soon hemp, if things shifted and changed. So by diversifying our product line, we've created a little bit more security for ourselves and for potential investors. We also developed our CBD products in mind that what if someday we could not, incorporate CBD? How effective would our products be? And truthfully, CBD is just it's an ingredient within our products. I won't say it's the most important or least important ingredient, but I think if we pulled the CBD out of our products would be still quite effective. And so, looking, in the future, and looking at the what ifs. What if CBD became illegal? Fine, we'll pull it out. We'll take it off the label, and guess what? We're no longer, having to follow regulatory compliance. Now we're basically a vitamin company, which is a completely different animal, and it makes things easier. Or someday the federal government will legalize cannabis in such a way that CBD will be regulated the same as, taking a vitamin C tablet.
So, Matt, you mentioned insurance, and insurance is one way of shifting risk to a third-party company. What kind of insurance do you carry? How does it help cover the risk that you might encounter in operating Splish Naturals?
I mean, we carry general liability insurance, which covers, our products. We do list every product we have with our insurer, to make sure we're 100% compliant, and to make sure that we're protected. And I sleep better at night, knowing that, hopefully, but at the same time, we also make sure that we're producing products that are really categorized as low risk, as a safe product to use. And, when we first launched the company, 18 months before we officially launched the company, we spent a year and a half developing products, testing products, modifying products, and learning a lot as we went, and making sure that the products that we produce, one, they're effective. It's like, would you buy a bottle of shampoo that didn't wash your hair? No, so it has to work. And two, it has to be safe. And the end user has to know and believe that it's safe. Yes, we do have third party testing, and it's kind of interesting though that I've talked to, like, in law enforcement, they generally don't lean in towards CBD products. But we do work with certain law enforcement that do, because they find our particular products to be very, very effective. But I've heard things like, how do I trust your labels? It's that mindset that, oh, you have CBD, therefore you're not trustworthy. And that's it's no question, that's a challenge that, you need to get over. And over time you begin to build a reputation reputation, and hopefully you get positive testimonials earn trust from your customers and anybody that's using the product and anybody that's considering using the product. And that's a big foundation that we've been working on. And the recognition we received over this year and last year, it helps build that reputation.
Well, and I want to go back to the insurance companies and point out that there are groups out there in virtually every industry that exists that have set their own standards for what's risky and not risky. And the ability to buy an insurance policy means that you have brought your business into conformance with the standards of that particular insurance.
Mhm.
Otherwise, they would not issue you a policy, even though they are assuming risk for something that may happen. That's a low statistical probability. You still are not doing something so wild, so crazy that you're uninsurable. And so, as a business, you should talk to these people who have set standards. It may be an insurance company, it may be an industry organization which sets its own policies and standards. There's all different groups. That may be some consumer groups. And learning what those standards are, then you can adjust your business to conform to those standards, to fall below the risk thresholds that they set. And you should put that information, again, it may not be something you can stick on the label of your product, but you need to put it into your materials when you talk to an investor. Again, this is a back office thing. That's not really a customer facing issue so much as it is trying to explain to an investor, you know what you're doing it correctly. And oh, by the way, you're conforming to all these different risk standards that other people have developed independently, and you're in compliance.
Yeah.
And this gives the investor that understanding of what's there. Um,
Years ago, as far as, like customer awareness and building our brand. And, we had the good fortune of the PR company that works with, the award shows in Hollywood and Grammys, Oscars, and we were sought after to include our products in the 22 Grammys recognizing Joni Mitchell as Artist of the Year. And we were chosen because somebody in their team had used the product, found it to be highly effective, and really just literally called us up and said, "Hey, this is who we are. We'd be interested." And we did the same thing the following year for the 2023 Oscars. When they were creating these TMG International Luxury Beauty boxes, they were doing that during COVID. But the fact that we were recognized, I didn't seek them out. They found us, and maybe it was just a lucky day for us that they happened to be in a business that sold our products and happened to purchase it. Sure, I don't mind being lucky. Yeah, sometimes you have to have luck on your side.
yeah, no,
But
absolutely.
it's part of, the fact that it reaffirmed that we are producing a high quality product. That's not just what Matt says. This is a international group that's headquartered out of London. They found it and invited us to be a part of this, the Grammys and the Oscars.
Yeah, and this is a challenge for a lot of companies bringing out new products or services, in that there may not be a standard that it may be so new that nobody has figured out how to measure it or how to quantify or qualify the benefits that come from it, and any associated potential risk that may occur. And so at that point in time, there's sometimes you have to take it upon yourself to build your own standard, or plant what I call a flag in the ground, and go, we are creating our own safety standard in our own self-interest, in the interest of our customers and so forth, and to work towards building some volume of scientific information that will support the product, and help other people understand what it is and how it works. And so getting involved in industry associations, man, I know that you started in the spa industry and you now are working in sports and then wellness. Talk a little bit about how you see your positioning in the markets as a way of de-risking the business.
Well, as you said, when I first launched this company, I had spent 17 years in the spa industry as a spa director for some of the most recognized brands in the world. And so, when we launched the company, it was going to be purely a B2B business, because I was going to tap into the demographic that I was, very deeply entrenched with. Of course, COVID comes along, and that became a game changer because 100% of our customers shut their doors. We had been working on a sport line that was really driven towards athlete recovery, reducing their pain and inflammation from a football game, from a 100-mile trail run, whatever it could possibly be. And that's for probably 20, 21, 22, and parts of 23. Sports really sustained us because they were going up. We got ourselves involved with pickleball, we got ourselves involved with rugby, we got ourselves involved with GoPro games. We sponsored more events than I can shake a stick at. And it was part of our marketing plan too. People say, well, how do you get your name out there? Well, we do it by having boots on the ground and applying our products, because unfortunately, through the internet, you can't try my products. You can't, put it on, take some on and apply it. And so it was very successful for us to be boots on the ground at sporting events. As the economy started to waver and we had, war broke out in the Middle East and consumer debt started to escalate, we had ended up suspending, starting in 24, all sponsorships just to sort of kind of see what's going on. Yet at the same time, what we had already built continued to grow within our company. When we started shifting, again, little over 3 years ago, starting, bringing in other products that, like our mats, it opened up other doors. When we start talking about the wellness, wellness it's a huge industry. It encompasses a lot of facets. It's predicted to grow from $5.6 trillion globally in 2023, I think, to 8.2 trillion in 2027. So our goal is to position ourselves in such a way that we can take advantage of that growth and we're not just a CBD company. We're not just a mat company. We don't just do grounding. We don't just do water. We mitigate pain. We mitigate inflammation. We help people relax. We help improve the quality of their lives. Whether you're an athlete, an extreme athlete, or you're a stay-at-home grandmother, or a mother with children running around the house, that our products help either calm them down from our grounding mats or our pulse electromagnetic field mats. So, that's why we were able to take a look at, and you said it earlier, yeah, we look at our competition. We look at what people are doing out there. I didn't invent CBD. I did not invent PEMF. I did not invent far infrared heat therapy. But what can I do that's going to separate what we're doing as a company to what my competitors are? And I'll circle back by stating that, there's no question there's high quality CBD companies out there that have a stellar reputation, but that's all they do. They do CBD. There's same thing with mats. There's no shortage of companies out there that are pushing mats, and and good quality mats. And maybe we've got a difference of opinion on price points, but again, they're mat companies. That's what they focus on. Whereas we're integrating it with our whole world of our spherical approach towards improving the quality of life for individuals without pills, without drugs. A couple of years ago, Success Magazine did an article on us, and they really did a deep dive in the opioid crisis, and they looked at us as being at the forefront of all natural relief, trying to get people off of pills, whether it's oxy or ibuprofen, and leaning in towards a more natural, holistic way of of reducing your pain, your discomfort. And I'm excited that, we've got professional pickleball players that were popping 8 to 10 ibuprofen a day, and they're not taking pills anymore. They use our products instead.
So there's two things that you talked about that I want to emphasize a little bit in talking about de-risking. You talked about being out there in the field with the booths, with the displays, at all the sporting events, and I participated in a number of those. And what I found interesting is that it gave you a chance to talk directly to the customer. This is not putting a product on the internet. It's not selling it through Amazon and seeing a sale occur. You are doing the sale directly. There was no person between you and the customer or the prospective customer. And it gives you an ability to get feedback in a manner and a level that a lot of entrepreneurs seem to skip over, where they'll go, "Hey, I sold so many of these things on Amazon this week," and they can't tell you the name of the customer. They can't tell you the degree of feedback of satisfaction that the customer received. And because of that, they're kind of still driving the car blindly down the road at night without headlights. They don't know why the customer bought it. They don't know if the customer is going to buy it again. They don't know what to do to improve a response or appreciation or satisfaction by the customer. And I think this is a missing ingredient from a lot of different companies. And again, from an investor standpoint, yeah, you want to see those endorsements, the testimonials from customers that are saying good things about you. And it's really almost impossible to get those if you're not face to face with your customer during the sales process or the post sales process to find out how everything worked. And this is one of the things that, yeah, if you have, I saw a service provider recently who had put out a 4-page flyer on what he does. And one full page was nothing but testimonials, which I thought did an excellent job of demonstrating market acceptance at 1-to-1 and getting the feedback, because investors can read those and they can tell if this is just a spin story or if this is a sincere, heartfelt response to the benefit that they got from the product or service. And so many times people go, well, I'll just throw up a website, I'll just start selling stuff. And they really aren't working with the customer. They're not treating the customer as an asset. And they're missing an opportunity to create that viral cascade effect of their customers, word of mouth, talking to everybody around them. It's just kind of like throw it over the wall, see what happens. So I think that Splish has done a good job of getting that kind of intimate, high quality feedback that has guided you in your decision making. And I think this is, again, a factor in de-risking what you're doing. The other thing that I know you have done is you've kind of looked for iconic customers, thought leaders within an industry where if they will accept your product, then this will cause other people to follow. They'll mimic their behavior and they will get behind what you're doing. So could you speak a little bit to what you're doing in trying to find name brand customers and work that into your presentation?
Yeah, I mean, we look with, when you start talking about working with big customers, you have to go through an approval process. For example, Marriott or Ritz-Carlton they have guidelines by which they approve vendors or partners, products, services, whatever it might be. And so, your local Marriott or St. Regis or whatever brand, you can go try to pitch them, but it's an uphill battle that almost 99.9% of the time isn't worth fighting for because of the internal process they have. So we do work with companies like, for example, Arch Amenities Group out of Florida, or actually out of Maryland. They're probably the world leading luxury spa management company with close to 100, if not a little bit more, 100 luxury spas within the United States alone, another 200 internationally. So going through the process of being approved. One, again, it validates who we are, our product line, the quality, and the fact that it fits in perfectly with their demographic, their customer base. And so, having that, becoming a, a preferred vendor for a company like Vail Resorts, world's largest ski company. They don't purchase our CBD products, but they do purchase our mat products, and to help create healing and recovery experiences for their guests. Helps them, enliven their tagline of experience of a lifetime. It's not much fun if you're in pain. So, having these partnerships, again, it does validate who we are, because they don't come easy. Um, you just don't go to the tree and pluck off a partner and say, okay, this is mine. Sometimes these partnerships take, they may take years, and you have to be patient. And of course, it's not like the last 4 or 5 years have been normal. We've all, the little guys and the big guys have all had their challenges. When we look at COVID, when COVID launched, before COVID, we were adding 5, 6, 7 new spas a month. Okay. That lasted 2.5 months. And once, COVID started to pass, a couple years later, over half our spas never reopened, and those that didn't have the capital to spend, because we were all basically in the same boat. Which then, of course, got us thinking, okay, we need to diversify product lines. We need to take a different approach. How do we mitigate our own risk, let alone an investor risk? And how do we keep this peanut pushing forward, so to speak? And so, but when you do have the opportunity to work with major brands, sure, that validates who you are, what you do. And naturally, it's also built-in customers.
Yeah, I mean, today I think the common belief is that you just go to a social media influencer, and it's assumed that they'll love your product or service. They'll post a bunch of social
Hey, Carl,
media.
give me one
Yeah,
second. I have to grab this call real quick. So I didn't want, let me be back
I'll
in
just
30 seconds. I'll let
I'll
them know.
just
You keep chatting. I'll be right
yes,
back.
I can do that. And I think I actually even have a way of shutting. No, that's not it. Let's go back to this. I have a way of taking a mat off. That's not the one. This is the one. I'll take Matt off screen temporarily while he's dealing with that. But as you can see, as we've talked about this morning, that investors are looking for a reason to invest, but they also have so many reasons not to invest. And so the burden, the obligation, responsibility on the leadership of a small business or a charity or a community project in pitching for funding is to recognize that these people who have the money have the ability to say no when you ask them. And you're responsible to try to figure out why they would say no, why they would object, why they would choose someone else over you. It isn't necessarily that you're doing anything wrong, but you're in a highly, highly competitive market. And currently, the capital market is pretty much in chaos because we still have after effects of COVID. We still have after effects of the increase in interest rates accompanied by high inflation. And now we're dealing with politics at an international level where the talk of tariffs has caught everybody concerned. Wall Street has been yo-yoing up and down as it should in reflection of the market does not always go up. But because of that, investors consider the current marketplace unstable. And there's nothing that investors hate more than an uncertainty about making an investment and wondering whether or not it's going to work out for them. Are they going to get their money back? What kind of rate of return might they get? What kind of other benefit might they derive from making the investment? And because of that, they're becoming more selective. They're becoming slower. They're raising the bar where they had 4 criteria before, now they have 8. And they want to make sure they check all the boxes, be very careful, very precise in making their investment decisions. At the same time, because they're making investments in smaller dollars or slower, that means there's a greater number of people looking for the same funding from a smaller group of investors. And this means the competition is ever more fierce. It's more like a playoff competition. I can use an analogy to the current Colorado Avalanche or the current Denver Nuggets, who are in the playoffs in two different sports. It's the same thing right now. If you're out raising funding, consider that you're not in mid-season any longer. This is the playoffs. This is the, let's make it or break it time, where every day you've got to think about winning the next game. And if you're going to go out and spend the time and the energy pitching for funding, you have to get over any concept of any expectation that funding is going to happen. You have to make it happen. And the only way to make it happen is to get out ahead of the game, to make yourself stand out, to anticipate and prepare for the questions and challenges that investor candidates are going to ask, and say, well, what about this or what about that? And you need to have that answer. And the answer needs to be crisp and concise and to the point, where you're alleviating the concern, the worry that this may not turn out. And if you don't have that information, it's ever so easy for the investor candidate to think you're not ready, or I can find someone who can answer my question better than you just did. And if they get to that state of mind, you're not going to get the investment, and it's not going to happen. So part of what we're trying to do in today's program and in a series of articles I'm publishing on LinkedIn in my instant funding newsletter is I'm talking about how to de-risk your business to make it more attractive to investors, because it appears safer from the investor's standpoint than other things that they're looking at. And in situations like we're in today, investors can change whole classes and structures and markets where they invest, because they are working actively to avoid losing the value of their money that they may have had in Wall Street. Maybe they pull it out of a Wall Street stock and put it into real estate, or maybe they pull it out of real estate and they put it into a bank CD or something else that looks like it'll still be there when all this turmoil and chaos is over. So what we're doing today is trying to work with everyone who's out raising funding, still out there playing the good game, and help you understand that there are things you can and should do to make yourself more attractive to investors. And some of these have to do with increasing sales and all the other stuff that goes along with it. But one of the key things is the perception of risk, the how an investor looks at your business or opportunity and asks themselves, is this really going to happen? How likely? What's the probability of success that it will happen? Will it happen within the time frame that I want it to do? And the reason why sharing this information is too often, and most of the time, you'll see entrepreneurs skip over this concern. It's kind of like, I'm here, I anticipate I'll get funded, so I don't need to answer these questions. I don't need to address these concerns. And as a result, they're making a presentation that's less than it's all can be, and it's reducing their ability to compete with and become a viable candidate for funding. So Matt, are you back with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry
Okay.
about that. I'm
No,
expecting a delivery today, and I was expecting a call confirming where the delivery is going.
Yeah, no, I totally understand it. As a small business operator myself, there is myself, the janitor, there's myself, the shipping clerk, there's myself, the salesperson, and there's really no one else who's making sure that everything gets done. And so while you were gone, I was just emphasizing that the purpose of today's program is to point out things that you, Matt, in the leadership of Splish Naturals has taken, which help an investor candidate take a look at you and say, hey, these guys have their act together. They're moving along. They're making progress. And as a result, they're less risky.
Yeah.
So, in closing remarks for today, Matt, what else do you think you might do to, excuse me, de-risk your presentation to the world?
Well, I mean, as I've said, we've diversified our products, our portfolio of products. So to help protect us in case laws change but more importantly, it's more about, having that diversity of being able to heal people and not just rely solely on a single product. And we'll continue to expand our product lines. We are also looking to, if we have the good fortune of raising enough capital, we've already designed our own Splish Naturals Connect app, which would connect wearables. And we will update the controllers on our mats so that the mats can be connected so people can actually measure their biometrics in real time. We would like to make our app HIPAA compliant because we are in conversations with medical groups who want to take a more proactive approach with their patients and have them having wearables and be able to set up alerts or alarms or something like that. If all of a sudden, Carl, your blood pressure skyrockets, abnormally, or your glucose levels drop precipitously, whatever, outside of your normal, physicians can be made aware and contact the patient in a more proactive fashion. So, again, it also helps create a bit of an annuity type of revenue, where people will purchase the app. And of course, why would they purchase ours versus the one they already have? And again, it falls in line with what we were already doing with the company. It's not just going to connect our mats to, a wearable. It's going to, have that HIPAA compliance. It's going to have a meditative state. Yes, of course, it's going to do all the biometric steps, calories, blood ox, etc. But we want to make it such a, we want to create value for our customers, and our customers could be the individual who subscribes to it. And we want to create value for that individual, or the medical group that might want to license the app for their patients, and of course, being HIPAA compliant, I pull myself out that I'm not privy to patient information. So again, that sets us apart without leaving the realm of wellness. Okay. It just adds a new dimension to what we're doing. And it's the same thing with our water, Splish 2.0. Yeah, of course, it's a play on the name of our company. But being able to help people hydrate better, help them reduce inflammation while they're enjoying a refreshing glass of water. It fits right into the wheelhouse of our diversification of products. And then when we start talking about the CBD, it complements everything we're doing. That may have been our starting point, but now we're moving in different directions, and not just for sport, not just because, we research different areas of wellness and pain management to see if it's a viable solution. Does it fit into our model? Not every thing we research fits directly in, for a number of reasons. It may not be because it doesn't work. It may be because it's got at a price point that doesn't fit in with our tagline of everyone deserves wellness.
Yeah, so thank you for that, Matt, and thank you to the audience for being with us today as we talk about making investments safer by taking the risk out of the investments. Matt has shared with us today several things that he is doing in leadership of Splish Naturals to make his company more successful, which directly aligns with what investors are looking for, is that constant assault on success to make everything be what it can be. So thank you to the audience for being with us today. For those of you get to view the recording, it'll be available on YouTube and LinkedIn in perpetuity. And I also publish a almost daily newsletter called Instant Funding on LinkedIn. Both of those are for free. And I would also point out that if you go to my webpage, dakincapital.com, you can find my AI avatar, Cap, and you can ask him questions about what he is doing. And I'll just pop him up on the screen about funding and entrepreneurship, all without charge, as I'm trying to share what I've learned over 4.5 decades in raising capital with hundreds of different projects and companies and so forth. And I welcome any of you also, if you'd like to reach out to me. And you can schedule a 15-minute phone call where I will try to do what I can to answer your questions about funding without charge. And then if it makes sense, yes, I am open for hire. I do this as a business. And anything beyond 15 minutes is going to toe the line, so to speak. So give me a call, check out CAP, read the Instant Funding newsletter, and come back next week, because every Tuesday morning at this time, we will be talking about successful funding. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next week.